Welcome to SFF180 Retro, where I examine older genre titles, perhaps not classics, but definitely worth your while to seek out. Hello everybody, Thomas here, your host as always. Now in this episode, I discuss Kim Stanley Robinson's The Memory of Whiteness, subtitled as Scientific Romance from 1985, which has just been low-key re-released by Tor Books in paperback earlier this year. Now when it came out, it was such a radical departure from Robinson's first novel, The Wild Shore, a Hugo and Nebula finalist, that it was hard to believe it came from the same author. Loving The Wild Shore as much as I did at the time, I think being of an age with its characters, I felt, especially connected to it. I expected more of the same here, and I was thrown quite a few loops. It's only with time and age and experience under my belt that I realize what a dazzling, if imperfect, story this actually was. In The Memory of Whiteness, Robinson uses the tragic myth of Icarus as the framework for a philosophical novel of discovery unafraid to tackle big metaphysical issues. It does so, perhaps, in a way that will drive hard science fiction purists right up the wall. Free will versus determinism gets a vigorous thematic workout here. Probably the story's most inspired touch is its vision of art as science. Now, at the time of the book's release, there was a friendly feud going on between the cyberpunks, led by William Gibson and Bruce Sterling, who combined a vision of the evolution of man and machine with a deeply cynical outlook on the nature of both, and the humanists, whose figurehead was Kim Stanley Robinson, interested more in examining humanity's place in the universe and encouraging a more harmonious relationship between the two. In this book, Robinson explores the thin line between genius and madness, between the quest for knowledge and deluded obsession. Now, if you remember what happened to Icarus, there's an inevitability to this novel's outcome that would make the whole thing seem futile if the journey itself weren't as full of wonders as it is. Perhaps that is much of what Robinson is getting at here. It's the journey that matters. What exalts us as a species is our irrepressible drive to learn and to know. We will pursue this, even at the greatest risk to ourselves. It's the 33rd century, and humanity has colonized the entire solar system, indistinguishable from magic technology, has created wit-suns, little slivers of the sun spread throughout the system, enabling thriving colonies to exist as far out as Pluto, and even on remote terraformed asteroids. Johann Wright begins his odyssey on Pluto, where he has been chosen to become the 9th master of Holy Welkin's orchestra, a ridiculously huge and complex machine comprising a full complement of orchestral instruments, all made to be performed by a single musician operating from a control booth. Now, why would such an absurd thing be built to create music when real orchestras or even synthesizers would be undeniably easier to manage? Well, perhaps because its designer, Holy Welkin, was the proverbial mad genius. He built his instrument for those equally brilliant and mad. As the book opens, Wright has rebelled against taking on the role of master and given himself over to drug abuse. In his shame, he decides to clean up by enduring cold turkey withdrawal in the orchestra's control booth. Now here, he experiences a hallucination of the long-dead Arthur Holy Welkin himself, who informs Wright that no one has understood his instrument, and that it was never meant simply to imitate an orchestra and play conventional scores. Holy Welkin's orchestra was meant for its own unique music, and Wright must find it. He begins to play, and a new, previously undiscovered music emerges. Years pass, and Wright is preparing to tour the solar system, from Pluto straight through to Mercury. He has announced his magnum opus, The 10 Forms of Change, composed to explore nothing less than the fundamental fabric of existence itself. Wright's retinue includes his tour manager, Margaret Nevis, fiercely devoted and yet obsessed with saving Wright from himself, and Dent Ios, a freelance music journalist who becomes Wright's unwitting confidant, someone to whom the great composer feels he can speak man to man. Now, they try to keep Wright on his feet, especially when it appears that Ernst Eckern, a bitter musical rival, is trying not only to sabotage the tour, but assassinate Wright. Now, it is possible that Wright's new music may be literally dangerous after his first performance on Pluto drives the crowd into a kind of hypnotic frenzy. There is more than a bit of Shakespeare in all of this. Some echoes of The Tempest are evident. And the strange order to which Eckern belongs practices metadrama, an idea that takes the bard's line that all the world's a stage to its literal extreme. They seek to manipulate and control patterns in human behavior on the societal level for the sheer artistry of it. The Memory of Whiteness is a voyage unlike any in science fiction. Now, often it is obscure and difficult to unpack, but when Robinson attempts to describe the indescribable, to convey the ineffable qualities of music that enable it to reach into areas of the mind that other forms of art and communication cannot, the book achieves true moments of awe. And if SF is meant to be a literature of ideas and not mere escapism, we need books this challenging. Now, you may decide in the end that The Memory of Whiteness was just not a book for you, but you can't deny its sense of wonder at the universe itself and our own need to discover where we fit within its music. And that is all I have time for in this episode of SFF180 Retro. I want to thank all of you fine folks for joining me. Remember, the most important thing, these are reviews. You will not always agree with me, but if you enjoyed watching, hit that like button, share the video, and above all, please subscribe. If you haven't done so, that's how SFF180 grows as a channel. You can also support the channel at its TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wink's army get to watch my videos, Mailbag Monday and all of that, one day early. So I want to thank all of those folks for their support and yours for being wonderful viewers. And until I see all of you next time, happy reading.